I'll keep refreshing. Anyway, for those that were in the previous stream, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. We went live from the iTech channel as well as my personal profile. Fail. We will not be doing that again, but the nature of live streaming, I guess, on the internet. Early days. So we are going to start off with some tech news, and they're going to go to an interview with an industry leader, which I have sitting next to me, but that's going to have to wait. And a startup spotlight with a startup that I love, that you may have heard of, may not have heard of, because they're kind of a big deal, but you're going to have to wait for that. So we're just going to start real quick. What I said is that what characterizes the news, the Israeli tech news over the past couple of weeks has been mega rounds across all verticals of technology. And so I started off with Seleno, which is a hardware company making chips and software for managed Wi-Fi apps. Hardcore technology. We're not playing around here. And another company that raised money is Behalf. They raised $27 million from some of the biggest investors in Israel and abroad. You got Viola Group, Sequoia, Vintage. Sequoia is, I would say, widely regarded as 1, 2 top, VC in the world. These are the guys that believed in WhatsApp. Obviously, they invested $50 million, and that I think cashed out at $3 billion, if I'm not mistaken, with the $19 or $22 billion acquisition, depending how you look at it. And Vintage is Israel's only fund of funds. Alan Feld is a personal role model and a friend, and so they got quite the investors. That's really impressive stuff. Another company that raised is WSC Sports, and you'll notice again we started off with chips. We're talking about payments, and now we're talking about sports. These guys are an automated video creation platform for sports. It really is across all verticals. They raised $12 million. We got CyberX, which I would imagine you can guess what they do, cyber. We got Reviews, Beyond Verbal. We got some amazing companies raising pretty big rounds of financing. And obviously Revelator, another company that raised $2.5 million, is Jerusalem-based, which is also worth noting that within Israel, traditionally there was kind of like Rothschild Boulevard and the Tel Aviv scene, and there's the Herzliya scene, which is where we are right now. Jerusalem is up and coming, and I would say it's beyond up and coming. I think it's already really on the map. There's several VCs that are focused specifically on Jerusalem, and there are a lot of amazing companies in Jerusalem, from Mobileye, which obviously powers Tesla's autonomous modes, and UMove and Zuta Labs and so many other companies in Jerusalem. It's really exciting times in Jerusalem. On the acquisition front, there's a lot of kind of talk about ad tech. So we're not going to get into that debate, but whether or not ad tech is a meaningful space or it's not a meaningful space, there was another acquisition in the ad tech space, and there have been several large acquisitions in the ad tech space over the past couple of months. Obviously, Interactive was acquired for $86 million a few months ago. So Gmobi acquired Israeli ad tech startup Massive Impact. Interesting, irrelevant of how big the exit was. It's just really interesting to see that even ad tech is still alive and kicking here in Israel, and I think that's unique. As far as other news that we see that's interesting, obviously MoveIt is one of Israel's fastest growing companies, if not number one or number two. They're a many call them the Waze of public transportation. They give you crowdsourced information about public transportation. So they launched, along with Google and Waze, by the way, its own ride-sharing service, which is, a lot can be said about the whole, sharing economy. Obviously, there's the Airbnbs and the Ubers of the world, and so ride-sharing is becoming a really hot thing right now. And Waze made the news last week about it, and now MoveIt's doing their own ride-sharing service, which is interesting, no question about it. Not to sound too unicorns and picnics, to give a little quote-unquote bad news, there was the famous, by now it's famous, SpaceX explosion last week, where Elon Musk basically blew up Mark Zuckerberg's servers. Awkward. So that was, unfortunately, Israeli technology, almost 6. Other news, we have larger companies looking into Israel, and that's, once again, in the context of how big we are, how small we are, how microscopic this country is, and the challenges we face in this region. The fact that Siemens is now going to be launching all their smart products in Israel, including ovens, washing machines, coffee machines, and other home appliances from Israel, it's just interesting because, why are they even looking in our direction? Why are these top-tier VCs, right? Excel just opened up a VC, their office here, and Sequoia's here, and, Marker's here. All the leading VCs of the world basically are here, with very few exceptions. And that's what's really interesting, that, instead of opening up offices in London or New York after Silicon Valley, the second location that they're looking at is here in Israel. And I mentioned it in previous shows, but, I interviewed Mark Andreessen on VentureBeat several months ago, probably a year ago by now, and I asked him, when are you opening up in Tel Aviv? And he told me straight out and publicly that his second office, because they have a one office rule, his second office, he said, will be in Tel Aviv, which is, it's crazy. Think about it, right? Why isn't he opening in London? Why isn't he opening in New York? This is Mark Andreessen, the guy who invented the web browser and is invested in probably more of the leading tech companies than any other investor, despite all the Wall Street Journal has to say about that. We're not going to go there. And so it really is true for VCs. It's true for startups growing here. It's true for larger tech companies. We're sitting here at Microsoft. The whole Microsoft Accelerator started here in Israel. Microsoft Ventures started here in Israel. And Google, all the big, you name it, they're all here in Israel, R&D centers. And not only are they here, but they're actually building core elements of their technology here in Tel Aviv and Herzliya and other cities. And that's what's really, really interesting. And so with that, I'm just going to end off. I do want you to notice that, all the funding, all the financing that I mentioned are, I think, across all verticals, right? There's no, strong emphasis on consumer. There's no strong emphasis on cyber. It's really across the board. And that's what's really interesting. I'm going to take some questions here because we got a lot of them. I hope you guys hear me okay. Let me know if not. You're on. Live and not choppy. Beautiful. You are so cool, man. No, you're so cool, Yitz. Okay, I'm still live. Great, fantastic. We got Witty Tzipora Witty from Home Talk, which is another company that is just bonkers. This company's in Jerusalem, not making noise. I don't think they raise any external funding, and they're fully profitable. They're the biggest DIY platform in the world, do-it-yourself platform in the world. They had, I don't remember the numbers, I think 90 million uniques last month. They're growing exponentially. It's completely nuts. Let's see who else we got in here. Some unbelievable people. All right, some people are saying that it's off, so let me know. I'm very interested to know. Nadav Rees, mass challenges in Jerusalem now too, adding to the scene. Yes, Nadav is from Envision, another phenomenal company that has an office or has a team here on the ground. Mass Challenge, one of the world's biggest accelerators. We're in Microsoft, obviously Microsoft's on the map too. It's in Jerusalem, really interesting. Move It is amazing, one of the best apps around. I agree. Keep on rocking, Hillel. Thank you, Mo. Mo is the business development at Home Talk. There you go. All right, hi from London. Hi there. Farhana from New York. Don't you ever sleep. Better sound now. Fantastic. All right, I think we're done with the tech news. I want to talk about our guest here today. So, as far as VCs are concerned, there are a lot of them, globally and in Israel, especially in Israel. There are some that have less of a good name. There are some that have more of a good name. And then there are the actual investors, the people. And, listen, think about the job of a VC, right? They see a lot of companies, they have to say a lot of no's, right? Most of their day it's no, no, no. That's not pleasant for entrepreneurs to hear. And so, entrepreneurs might get offended a little bit, especially when you have that kind of Israeli, I don't know what to call it to sound diplomatic, not arrogance, but, Israeli-ness. And I'm sitting next to someone who I think everything I just said does not apply to. Liat Aaronson, who is previously a lawyer, an M&A lawyer, and then led the Zell program at IDC. Correct me if I'm saying anything incorrectly. And then now is a partner at Marker VC. Now, we're friends, but I want to say that the one thing I can say about you that can be said about some VCs, but not many, is that people love you. Like, you have no, I'm serious. I don't mean to flatter. I'm serious. Like, people really look up to you and think, you're a mensch. That's what's most, it's not easy to say no to people and still have them leave the meeting thinking, wow, she's great. And so, first of all, hats off for accomplishing that.
Well, I haven't been saying no for so long. This is kind of a new transition for me. And okay. In my last previous lifetime at Zell, which I'm still very involved in, I had the opportunity to not have to say no to, or maybe once a year say no to some people who were applying. So maybe I did have experience in that, but it's certainly different.
All right. Okay, so Whitty says she can't hear her. Tzipora says she can't hear her. Can you maybe, I don't know, let's try to it should be okay. Let's hear what people say. Mo, let me know, guys, if you can hear Liat, because she's much more important than me, and you need to hear her. So I hope you can hear her. Clear but too low. Okay, so make it a little louder.
I'll just talk
louder. You could talk louder. There you go. So I just said to Liat that it's not easy to say no to startups all day long and still have the person leave the room enjoying the meeting and saying positive things. And Liat answered that she wasn't always a VC and she was working in the Zell program. There weren't that many no's. But let's start. Let's take a step back. Who are you? What's your background?
Well, so a long time ago, I moved out here from California. I studied at Berkeley and came here on my junior year abroad, fell in love with the country, and decided I wanted to stay. So I...
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
Why? Why do you want to stay?
Well, I came here and was really surprised because I'd actually come here just because it sounded exotic and my parents wanted me to come here instead of Italy, so where all my friends were going. But I really got the Israel bug, that feeling of belonging, that you can make a difference, that there's a great energy here, and fell in love with it. So made a decision to stay, had to convince my parents, so I enrolled in a law program and business program at Tel Aviv University. I was enrolled in an JD MBA and deferred it when I came here for my gap year, and so instead I enrolled here for an LLB and an MBA at Tel Aviv University. That proved a really super humbling but very good way to learn Hebrew in the end. And from there I went to mergers and acquisitions, which I did for 6 years. I was on a team at Nashitz Brandis, great experience. Learn a lot about the kind of the back end of all kinds of deals. But the problem with that is that you feel like you're on the back end of the deals and that you're not really, you're kind of servicing the deal instead of being part of it. So I took what was supposed to be a year career break. I was doing pottery and yoga, and it was kind of like an early retirement. And then a really good friend of mine who's now the CEO of TIPA was working at IDC, Daphne Nissenboim, and she said to me, oh, they're looking for someone to run the Zell entrepreneurship program. And I thought, well, I'm probably uniquely unqualified to run an entrepreneurship program. I'm not an entrepreneur, first and foremost, and I've never taught anything, and I've never really managed anything. But I came to IDC, the eucalyptus trees kind of captured me, and I, what was supposed to be a 2-year gap kind of career break ended up being a 10-year amazing, kind of an amazing experience. Hopefully getting a lot of entrepreneurs off the ground.
I definitely can tell you from the side that it made a real impact. I hear about the Zell program all the time, and I lecture in different places, and including IDC, but Zell kind of like stands out among, really, I'm not just saying that, I just want to give some shout outs here, because we have Aviv Frankel here from Channel 10, or previously Channel 10.
Oh.
Yeah, Mr. Carr and tech guy who I'm super jealous of. Candace Ackerman's in here, Daniel Rubin, some really amazing entrepreneurs. Bob Rosenshine, hey Bob, we were just talking about you. Okay, so then you did Zell for 10 years? Wow,
Yes.
That's a long time.
And then I was thinking what would be the next thing. I actually wasn't really thinking about it very proactively, but I met Yuval Shachar, who's my partner at Marker, and we'd been meeting for coffee every once in a while and talking about venture creation and building companies. And he said, well, you seem to be great at identifying talent and curating that talent. Why don't you come and do that with us? And I thought it'd be a great opportunity. So that was kind of what the impetus to the leap. And I wouldn't have done it without finding an amazing replacement for Zell, Moran Neal, who's doing a great job. She's a Zell graduate herself, so I think she hit the ground running in that sense, but also personality-wise, with a lot of experience from Mass Challenge, she's really done an amazing job.
Amazing. So you've been with Marker for a year now.
Yes. In fact, speaking to you, I kind of realized that DLD is going to be at the anniversary. So
Yes. I remember we bumped into each other waiting in line for tickets at DLD last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, Liat, I gotta take a selfie. Well, I do that with anyone, but with you, it was like, wow, you're like a rock star. So yeah.
Really?
We got Dave Grunberg in here, we got Oren Barzilai from Start a Fire, amazing people in here. Okay, so you've been with Marker for a year, and talk to me about Marker. I mean, what are you looking for? What is Marker looking for? What are you looking for? How does it work?
Well, Marker is a Herzliya, New York VC. We're focusing on Series B investments, but if you're really thinking about it, it's not so much the series, it's more the place where a company has kind of proven the technology, figured out product market fit, and is ready for scale, and that scale is usually in the United States. So a lot of our Israeli portfolio is in New York, but we do have some companies out on the West Coast as well, and a third of our portfolio is still in Israel. So we give support to getting into the market, and that's usually the place, kind of the first, the chief marketing hire is probably going to be a place where we're great for coming in, and that's what we've done in the past. We have a pretty broad spectrum, but if you look, there are some distinct silos. So we have a lot of video technology, we have a lot of data, cyber, and if you look at it, kind of excluding the cyber, but most of it is focused on servicing brands, so marketing services, where we have a lot of connections, whether it's publishers or media agencies or the brands themselves in the United States. And if you include cyber back into it, most of our, kind of as a general rule, most of our companies have data assets in it. So we're really, really interested in data and really excited about where that's going.
So data is the name of the game.
Yes.
I love it. So I'm an entrepreneur, getting started, not anywhere near Series B, but how do I even go about?
Well, so I meet a lot of those. I think it's part of the network that I kind of bring to the table, and I also love meeting.
May I interrupt you one more time?
Sure.
I apologize. That's the nature of live, and we're close enough for me to interrupt you. Ryan says, what do you look for in a founding team? Is it that important to Series B level, or have they already proven themselves? Well, that's what we're talking about right now. So what are you looking for?
So I'll answer that first and then I'll go to the other part. So what we're looking for in a team, even when it comes to Series B, and not even, you're always looking for a team. It's essential. And at Series B, you may have some SaaS metrics and a lot of numbers to show, and that's also really important. But at the end of the day, and especially for Marker, and it's especially a function of our my partners and who we are and what we bring to the table, we're very founder-focused, and we love to help teams build and develop and grow together with us. So Yuval Shachar is an entrepreneur. He sold 3 companies to Cisco. He's really good at selling companies to Cisco, but he's also really good at growing and developing companies. And that's what we're looking to do. We want to help entrepreneurs build companies. So we don't want to go into a team where we don't want to be part of that team. So yes, team is essential. And what we're looking for in a team is, above and beyond a kind of diversity of skill sets. So if there's great technology, great engineers, but no one that understands the business side, that's a problem. So we're looking for the diversity. We're also looking, on the other hand, to the cohesion, usually a function of shared values and things that people bring to the table and that help them kind of work together and take it onwards. And also looking for a vision in that team, so that at least it's going to change many times along the way, but there is a shared vision to, changing the world, changing something, making it better.
So where does monetization fall in terms of your philosophy? Would you guys invest in a company that is pre-monetization, or is revenue an absolute must?
Because we tend to invest a little later down the, kind of timeline, I would say that most of our investments would require revenue and and we're also much more B2B focused than we are B2C.
That was my next question.
Right. So in a B2B play in this kind of a market, you're going to need to have some revenues, and probably even more than revenues, show some kind of way of growing that revenue.
Interesting.
But we have outliers to everything, and we also have some B2C, but our focus is more on B2B companies.
Okay, so now let's take a step away from Marker and talk about Israeli tech.
Okay.
Because, like I said to you earlier before the show, you have a very unique perspective. You come with a legal background, an academia background, and now you're investing. So you really see, I think, a very broad, much broader than most people I know. So what are you seeing? What have you traditionally seen? How is it changing? And what's the future?
Well, I see a lot of deal flow. There are a lot of people who are looking at entrepreneurship as a way to kind of carry out their dreams. There's a good side of that and a challenging side of that. So if in 2008 most of my students at Zell wanted to be investment bankers, now
startup.
Now all the really smart kids want to be entrepreneurs. So I think what happens invariably is that some of them won't actually fit the bill, and being an entrepreneur is much harder than it looks, certainly than Silicon Valley. So I think either way, even if it doesn't work out, I think the experience teaches a lot for what you take into the rest of the world with you. So whether it's your ability to pitch an idea, your ability to hear no, your ability to fail and get up again, kind of working without a template, all those things are great for whatever it is someone does. So to me, the fact that there are so many people out there trying to create a startup is okay in that sense. I do feel like certainly there won't be room for everybody, and the market does correct itself, and that's why it's really frustrating to get all those no's, but clearly not everyone out there is going to be able to raise the money that they need.
Do you think, because obviously you've heard this, talk for forever, but traditionally speaking, Startup Nation, right, you've been known for like basically building and flipping, not building, Wixes and Wazes and Mobilize. And because from where I'm sitting, I'm not sitting anywhere near, as high up in the ecosystem as you are. Are you also seeing a shift from, as far as entrepreneurs and even investors, from building small startups and then selling them to building really big sustainable companies? You seeing that shift?
So first of all, I take argument with the fact that I'm sitting up higher anywhere than you. I think you have quite a great vantage point. But I think that there's a natural evolution to starting out and selling early, but more and more companies actually establishing here. I'm not concerned that companies are selling early or that they're taking their technology. I think in the end, for younger entrepreneurs in particular, that earlier exit brings kind of a springboard to going forward. So I don't see a problem with it. I think that in itself probably explains in a big way why we have so many global technology companies here for R&D. And I think that is an amazingly kind of productive and really great breeding ground for a lot of people to work and to learn and to kind of get involved in innovation. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I think over time, the bigger companies will come out of here.
Love it. Okay, so we got 2 questions for you, and then we'll end this segment. We got Tzipora asks, question for both of you. How do you think being an entrepreneur in Israel differs from being one in Silicon Valley or other places? You go first.
Wow. Okay. So I think being an entrepreneur in Israel this is a very, very tight-knit, not closed, it's a very tight-knit, very, very helpful, and your ability to connect with other people is huge. I think in Silicon Valley, you also, as an Israeli, you also have it, but here it's just very, very robust and kind of very frothy and interesting. I think you mentioned valuations are higher there, so it may be location bias wise, it may be easier to raise more money there.
Right.
I think that on the other hand, the kind of support that you get here is really strong, but eventually I think many entrepreneurs find their way out into the US, and that also isn't a concern of mine.
It's not.
Brain drain, no.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. So I mean, from where I'm sitting, I think that there's no better talent in the world, and I said it with full confidence, than here in Tel Aviv, Herzliya area, obviously Jerusalem too. And it's not just me saying it. I think that's pretty much a global kind of accepted truth that Israel has, produces amazing talent. But if you really need to, build a big sustainable business with real revenue and business, you can't really do that exclusively from here. I'm absolutely not saying startups need to move or relocate, but they definitely need to open, a U.S. presence and presence in other places as well. There are exceptions to every rule, but I think that at the end of the day, with all due respect to us, and there is respect, we're still tiny. And so while I definitely have, I encourage startups to start here, and that's great. At the end of the day, there definitely needs to be some sort of strategy for building a U.S. presence. And, I think that that's widely accepted as just the truth. Yehuda asks, Liat and Hillel, do you feel that where you are located has an effect on your ability to raise capital? Example, being a Jerusalem-based startup or being a Tel Aviv-based startup. I have recently met with a VC who is very adamant about the company moving into the ecosystem to raise capital. So you're saying, Yehuda, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking within Israel, not Israel versus Silicon Valley. In Israel, do you think, is that something you look at when you look at companies?
I was kind of surprised to hear that. I haven't heard that, and I can't imagine that it's such an issue in the States. It takes about the same distance between Silicon Valley and San Francisco as it is to get from here to Jerusalem.
Right.
I don't see that as a factor at all. And I think that Jerusalem, as you mentioned, is thriving and bubbling, and I think it's great stuff going on there, including money coming in, investor money.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I think, and I'm sure you see this also, is, obviously there's local VCs, there's also US VCs based here, there's US money coming in, but lately, and we're seeing this all over the place, is Asian money, Asian capital flowing into Israel. And all the big Asian companies, right? I told you, I just came back from Shanghai. I mean, Alibaba and Baidu, they're all over this ecosystem, and that's really interesting. You guys seeing that also at Marker?
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing, unbelievable. We got Yossi Taguri in here, the famous. Yossi Taguri is like now a celebrity. Now, we didn't even talk about the IPO that he called off this week. You want to talk about that, or is that too? No, we don't. We don't have the Shalano group. I mean, it was on last night. Business Insider wrote an article about how the Israeli tech ecosystem called off an IPO. CNN Money interviewed Yossi Taguri about it. It's obviously a very hot, topic right now. But I think at the end of the day, without getting into the politics of it, I think it really does come down to, something really unique about this ecosystem that we care. We care. We don't want to build fluff. We don't want to build up bubbles. We want to build up quality innovation that will really change the world. And I guess that bodes well with what you were saying earlier about what you're looking for. And honored to have you here. Keep doing what you're doing, and do it with a smile. That's what's most important. Because the people say that about you, don't stop smiling. It's amazing. So thank you again for coming, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks.
All right, thanks again. Okay, as you may or may not have noticed, that video did not play. So I will say that, again, it's the nature of live video. We are here in the studio, and so it didn't play. Don't know why. Having said that, I know Drupe for a long time and Barak for a long time, and I can give you my word that the product works a whole lot better than that video did. But I want to talk to Barak a little bit about the messaging space. Someone just said in the comments, hysterical. I just downloaded Drupe a few hours ago. What are the chances? What are the chances, Ben? Drupe is an amazing app, and I think what's really interesting, and I'm going to let Barak talk about it, is that there are a lot of messaging apps, obviously, could not be more saturated, but I think everyone's going about it attacking one direction, which is technology or the messages in the center, and I think Drupe is going about it completely differently, and I'm going to let Barak tell me about it. Who are you?
Hi, Hillel. How are you?
Great.
So yeah, that's correct.
Wait, but who are you?
I'm Barak.
What's your
Barak Witkowski.
All right.
I'm 35 years old.
All right, and you're the founder.
Yeah, I'm
CEO.
I'm one of the founders, yeah, together with Asi, my partner.
Got it.
I've started my career, I've learned computer science and electric engineering in Tel Aviv University. By the way, that's where I met Asi, my partner. I've worked in several startups and corporates, Intel, Marvell, Modu Mobile, which was a great journey.
Wow, man, you've done a lot.
Broadcom.
Impressive stuff.
Till we founded the company around 2 years ago, switching a bit personally from the more behind the scene, real-time embedded side to the
I'm going to interrupt you if I may. We have some questions here, but guys, prepare your questions because I'm going to let Barak introduce Drupe. But if you want to ask an Israeli entrepreneur some questions about the challenges, what makes Israeli technology tick, or what he's seen as easier or harder, whatever it is, prepare your questions, and I will ask him them in a minute. We have everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Do you have discussions about authenticity? Meaning, do VCs advise potential startups to ensure their ideas bring real value and authenticity to the market? Okay, Chai, that was for Liat. We're done with Liat right now, but I will pass your question on to Liat. I want Barak to tell me about Drupe. Give me the background here.
Yeah, okay. So what we've started when we started the journey is by understanding that more than 60% that all of us are spending in our mobile devices is in fact to interact with the people close to us, the friends, the family members. So if that's the thing that we're mostly doing with this device, why isn't the experience centralized and optimized around that? Or, I would even say, why when I open my device, the first thing that I see is a launcher full of apps instead of seeing the people close to me and having a native cross-app experience which enables me to interact much more intuitively, and that was the vision behind it.
Okay, let me just interrupt you. Just talk English because that's geek talk.
Okay.
Geek talk. Me and you understand that, but let me just explain what he means by that. When I open my iPhone, or my Android in this case, what do I see? I see apps. That's not ideal because what am I using my phone for? We know what we're using our phones for communication. And so you'd think that the first thing I would see when I open my phone is not apps, but people, right? Here is a person I want to communicate. How do I want to communicate? Now we'll talk about how. WhatsApp, email. But first, give me the people because the people should be at the center as opposed to the technology, the apps. Continue.
Okay, so indeed now when we talk about the product itself, so once you launch Drupe and you don't launch Drupe as a regular app, it's a sort of an overlay which is accessible to you anywhere across the device. In the launcher, in the lock screen, we have lock screen integration, and even when inside other apps, you launch the Drupe dots, the overlay, and then on one side, you see the contacts that you mostly interact with. We learn that in a contextualized cross-app manner by learning your habits from all different sources. So again, speaking English, we show you the right people at the right time.
There you go.
And on the other side, the list of actions that you can run towards those contacts. Now, I hope, Geva, you can tell me if people are able to see that because of the problem in the video, if you can see my mobile device. So once you launch Drupe, you can tell me if that's fine.
Let's see. A bit off.
I can also explain that.
Yeah. Let me just focus on that. Yeah, they can see now. Go ahead.
Okay, so on one side you see the contacts that you mostly interact with, and on the other side, list of actions. Some of them are gateway to other apps. That's the vision behind Drupe, and that's also to answer your question about the difference to other messaging apps. Drupe is in fact a gateway to all of your communication methods. So if I want to send WhatsApp to my father, I can just swipe his contact to WhatsApp and it automatically sends him a WhatsApp. We have a portfolio of over 30 different one-swipe interactions, calls, all type of messaging, social networks, connectivities, everything. So for example, Hillel, if I want to mention you in a tweet, I can swipe your contact to Twitter, mention you in a tweet. Everything is done intuitively, simple in one swipe, and contextually by showing you the right person at the right time. The nice part is that all the time we're expanding the definition of interactions. So let's say that you invited me to a beer last night and I want to pay you back for those $10, then I can simply swipe you to the dollar icon, choose how much I want to pay you back, choose the peer-to-peer payment method. Let's say I choose Venmo or Cash by Square, and I can pay you back.
Wow.
Or if I want to navigate to your place, swipe your contact to apps that you wouldn't consider as communication app, right? Waze, Google Maps. I swipe you to Waze. I have several different options to navigate to your static home address, to navigate to wherever you are right now, to share with you my current location. And I think that's the most interesting thing that we're doing, to expand the definition of communication.
I love it. I love it. So what you're saying is I choose the person and then I choose how I want to interact with that person, not I choose the app and then I find the person. Opposite of what we're used to, and I love that. And I think it's obviously, you think most people spend a lot of time communicating on their phone. That's all I do, right? So for me, it's obviously great, except for there's one problem that I'm really upset at you about. I'm on an iPhone, my friend.
Okay.
You have some questions here. What about an iPhone version?
Okay, so I can say that we're starting to work on that exactly those days. When dealing with iOS, the technology-wise, the solution will be slightly different, but still pretty cool, and especially when dealing with the contextualized and behind-the-scene factor. I think that that's the real strength of Drupe, that besides the experience, we know to recommend you the right people at the right time. And as you've said, and you've said it pretty clearly and correct, that we switch the order, that gives us another singular point for a pretty unique contextualized help to the user by also recommending you how you want to interact with each of your friends. So let's say one of your friends now start to swipe your contact, then Drupe can recommend what's the best way to approach you based on all different cross-app aspects that we have in our algorithm.
I love it. I love it. Listen, I've been a fan since before it was cool to be a fan of Drupe. I knew you guys from the early days, right? Is that true? We used to hang out a lot.
You know everyone.
No, but you guys. All right, so listen, you're getting a lot of great feedback here. Zahava said, ooh, I like this. Barak said, Drupe is awesome. Sivan said, go Drupe. So yeah, I think you guys are really onto something. And I think that that manifests itself in the superb, I should say, investors that invested in your company. How much money did you raise to date?
Up to now, $4 million.
$4 million. I need to be very clear here. A consumer app, a messaging app, raising $4 million in today's market is not trivial. And that is the understatement of a century. It's difficult. And I can tell you myself, it is difficult. So who'd you raise from?
So the last round was led by two main investors. One of them is Canaan Partners Israel. Hold
on, pause. Canaan Partner, you can't just say Canaan Partners and just keep going. We're talking about Yizhar Shai here. That guy's like top guy. He is, forget for 1 second the money. We didn't discuss this earlier, but when he joins company, he joins as a partner. He's really pushing, right? Is that true? I'm a huge Yizhar fan. Obviously, he's one of our biggest users on Zcast, so I'm not objective, but I loved him before he was on Zcast. But that is huge that you got Yizhar to invest in you guys. That is amazing. Okay, who else?
So we have Canaan Partners, Yizhar and Ehud and the entire team, and also Sweet Capital. It's a rather new fund located in Stockholm and London, founded by the founders of King.com, the creators of Candy Crush.
Amazing.
So we're super thrilled to see such, A-list, top-notch mobile developers who understand the real vision of bringing a people-centric native experience. So we're thrilled to have them together with our seed investors, Yigal Jacobi, Curious Minds, TMT Investments.
Amazing. So we talked about the product, talked about your investors, talked about the company. Great. How many downloads do you have?
Okay, so we're having more than 5 million downloads. In Google Play, probably this week.
What? Wait, you bought all those users?
The vast majority of them are organic downloads.
How?
Probably, first of all, people are looking for all types of messaging, as you said, solutions. But I think that what I've learned in those 2 years in the journey in Drupe is that different is better than better. And if you take the messaging sphere and approach it from a completely different angle, then people are really interested in that. We're having our rating in Google Play is over 4.6 out of 5 stars.
Unbelievable.
So
Ron Gura's in here. We got Mr. Ron Gura, the legend, the man himself. Okay, so I mean, I'm gonna push this point because I think a lot of people who are watching really want to know it. Now, don't get me wrong. Think different. You weren't the first to say it. You won't be the last. Apple's famous for that kind of mindset. Of course, you guys are different. I get it. But still, how did you get to 5 million downloads? That's phenomenal.
So we've got a lot of love from the media. We got nice love from the Android community and the Google community, thanks to the rating and the retention. And Drupe, thanks to being different and thanks to the fact that messaging really approaches everyone, all segments, then, you know, ear to mouth and virality, it's good that those spheres and solutions of messaging and consumer, you've talked also with Liat about the difficulties of B2C. The good parts is that you're very close to the users, and if you listen to them and you bring the features that they're looking for, then you see it in the metrics and you see it daily.
Two things that don't scale. You know that famous article? You should read it. Anyway, CD asks, do they have an interaction with Truecaller for unknown missed calls?
So we're also working on different angles around this solution. We've added lately block calling features. We've launched only a couple of weeks ago call recording, which works really well. It also relates to what I've said, that we're adding more and more one-swipe interactions, which aren't gateway to third-party apps, but our types of interactions, and it goes really, really well. So those kinds of features are also part of it.
What's your website?
GetDrupe.com.
GetDrupe, that's GetDrupe.com. And what's next? I mean, when's iOS coming, first of all? That's all I want to know. What are we talking about? Months, years? What are we talking about? Weeks?
Months. Few.
Okay.
And the things that we're working on is working on a more contextualized solution. So Drupe will also pop up in the right time and keep on recommending you not only the right people, but also the right apps, expanding the type of one-swipe interactions and partnerships. You came back also from China, so we're talking about partnerships with mobile vendors, with tier 1 apps and brands to be integrated into the Drupe ecosystem. We personally think since day one that partnership with mobile vendors, probably you know it pretty well, all the proliferation that we see in mobile vendors that from users' point of view bring pretty much the same stock vanilla Android experience. Then together with Drupe, they can bring a differentiated experience to their users, and it generates sort of a win-win-win triangle that users are having a better experience, apps can gain more visibility and re-engagement through Drupe, and also Drupe benefits from this portfolio.
You were, correct me if I'm wrong, you were in the Microsoft Accelerator?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Now I remember.
Batch 4.
There you go. Okay, so Tzipora asks, Tzipora, you got to change the order of your name. It says Witty Tzipora. I keep calling you Witty. Anyway, she asks if the iOS proprietary system will make it difficult for you to release on iOS. I would imagine you just have to, tweak it. It's going to be different.
Yeah, that's correct. In iOS, it's not going to be as an overlay, but as an app. But the power of the contextual engines and the interactions with different apps and all those tweaks and recommendations will also be there. And we're pretty thrilled to see how the iOS community will.
I mean, the name of the game is context today. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Robert Scoble's first book, The Age of Context. It's all about context, right? It's even in email and everything is context. And so, I'm happy to hear that that's what you're focused on. There was obviously previously a company that actually closed down recently. I don't mean to raise a sore topic, but everything.me, they were working on context. And so context is a big hot topic right now. And so it's definitely the right route to take. And again, what the heck do I know? You're the guy with 5 million downloads. Will hover over apps on iPhone as well. He said it's not an overlay because that's an iOS limitation, unfortunately. But maybe Apple will change their minds. Who knows?
But by the way, only last week we see the trend that Apple is opening things to such personalization solution. Only last week we've read about that they've opened the API for call blocking and for sort of overlays above calls. So the trend is there.
So I just want to say that this interview supposed to be like 5, max 10 minutes. We're like at 20 minutes right now. You're a very interesting guy. All right, so there's a lot of questions here. We're going to have to, how do people contact you?
Barak at drupe.mobi, getdrupe.com.
Barak at getdrupe.com, B-A-R-A-K.
Barak at drupe.mobi, that's the email.
Okay, so it's B-A-R-A-K at drupe.mobi.
That's right.
Drupe.mobi. Email him with any questions, and I can tell you, without even asking him, without even confirming this with him, he'd be happy to give you advice on how to grow your startup and how to get a lot of downloads. Obviously, be considerate of his time. He's a little busy, but he'd be happy to help. So thank you very much for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun. And just keep rocking, man. It's unbelievable. Every time I see you, the last time we met, it was only like 1 or 2 million. Now you're at 5. It's unbelievable. Keep it up, man.
Thanks.
You're making us all proud. It's great. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Toda.
And thank you all for coming in. We're done here. And as I say at the end of every episode, this is, an experiment. We're trying to make it better every time. There are some technical difficulties. Apologize for that. But if there's a segment that you think you want to see on this show, me ranting about something, talking about other tech news, not necessarily Israeli, or anything else that you think might be interesting to add to the show, you know where to find me. Let me know. I'm definitely open to it. We'll talk about it with Microsoft and with Geva, who runs the show here, and we'll make it happen. So I'm looking forward to your feedback, and I'm glad the audio and video worked out well. Apologize for the hiccup in the beginning, but the next episode is in 2 weeks. I believe we said the 21st of the month. And as far as the guests' next episode, blow your mind. Join us then. Thank you for coming in. We're at itechshow.co, so you can add it to your calendar already at the end of the day today. And of course, we'll be sharing this video on Facebook and Twitter, and of course, can follow all our accounts on the different platforms. Peace. Thank you for coming in. See you again in 2 weeks.